Hello and welcome back to 3+1 Media, where we talk about people, politics, and pop culture. And today in politics, we are talking about the love fest that was this year's one and only vice presidential debate. Now look, I have a lot to say with fact checks in hand, and because of that, I need to continue my fact checking. Now, this is part 1 of 3, and our focus here is on the best moment of the debate, the opening portion of the debate, and the most pressing issue of the debate. So it's going to be good, so stick around, but so will be part 2 and 3. Now, my personal favorite moment of the debate came when J.D. Vance got angry in the way that only a man can, who wears Fruit of the Loom briefs that come in a 3-pack with 2 free ones attached, because CBS moderators refused to let his slanderous rhetoric about migrants go unchecked. Note that they let a lot of the lies fly by, but that one, which has already rendered so much harm to communities across the United States, was called to task by the moderators, and baby J.D. Vance, born James Donald Bowman, that's his birth name, was not happy about it. Take a look at this.
Margaret, the rules were that you guys weren't going to fact check, and since you're fact checking me, I think it's important to say what's actually going on. So there's an application called the CBP One app, where you can go on as an illegal migrant, apply for asylum or apply for parole, and be granted legal status at the wave of a Kamala Harris open border wand. That is not a person coming in, applying for a green card and waiting for 10 years. That is the facilitation of illegal immigration, Margaret, by our own leadership.
Thank you, Senator, for describing the legal process. We have so much to get to, Senator.
Those laws have been on the books since 1990.
Thank you, gentlemen.
The CBP One app has not been on the books since 1990. It's something that Kamala Harris created, Margaret.
Gentlemen, the audience can't hear you because your mics are cut. We have so much we want to get to. Thank you for explaining the legal process. Nora. Thank you.
And neither was conservative commentator Megyn Kelly. And to think, Tamron Hall, with all her talent, all her black excellence, lost her job at NBC. So this Timu Rapunzel could replace her. I'll never forgive NBC for that. But here's the reality, and here's a fact check. J.D. Vance hates Haitians and those of us who look like Haitians. And by that, you know exactly what I mean. And that really wasn't a fact check. It was really just a simple pause to speak humanely about a group of people that had been done inhumanely by the candidate on the stage. A real fact check would have addressed the fact that Senator Vance attempted to correlate the CBP One app process with temporary protected status to Vice President Harris. And he said it was like the wave of a Kamala Harris open border one and would facilitate mass illegal immigration. That's what he said. That's actually very much so false. The CBP One app was created and launched under the Biden-Harris administration as a way to provide some migrants the ability to apply for an appointment at a port of entry, to potentially file an asylum claim, and seek other lawful pathways into the country. It is not a guarantee that these migrants will be allowed into the country, but it is a part of a legal process through which they can request an opportunity to make the claim, which is anyone's legal right. This is an update to a program that was extended by former President Donald Trump when he was president. Yes, one that Donald Trump extended. The Department of Homeland Security designates some countries temporary protected status when they are deemed too dangerous for their people to return to. TPS is a program that began in 1990 and was extended to include Haitian migrants in 2010 under the President of the United States, then President Barack Hussein Obama, after a devastating earthquake that's still impacting the people of Haiti. The protections were extended by the Department of Homeland Security under the Trump administration, although he did try to end those protections because he called the country a shithole country. That is a fact check. That is a true statement about this app and this process. And so now that I've got that off my chest, let's go into how the actual debate started, because it started with foreign affairs and international policy. I was surprised and disappointed that the first question went to a sitting governor, a state leader, instead of a sitting senator who actually deals with foreign policy at a greater depth as a specific job responsibility. But Governor Walz indeed held his own with foreign policy, and Governor Walz started with
a nearly 80-year-old Donald Trump talking about crowd sizes is not what we need in this moment. But it's not just that. It's those that were closest to Donald Trump that understand how dangerous he is when the world is this dangerous. His chief of staff, John Kelly, said that he was the most flawed human being he'd ever met. And both of his secretaries of defense and his national security advisors said he should be nowhere near the White House. Now, the person closest to them, Donald Trump, said he's unfit for the highest office. That was Senator Vance. What we've seen out of Vice President Harris is we've seen steady leadership. We've seen a calmness that is able to draw on the coalitions to bring them together, understanding that our allies matter. When our allies see Donald Trump turn towards Vladimir Putin, turn towards North Korea, when we start to see that type of fickleness around holding the coalitions together, we will stay committed. And as the vice president said today we will protect our forces and our allied forces, and there will be consequences.
By literally highlighting what former Trump officials said about Trump and what Vance himself said about Trump, I think it was genius. It was excellent rhetoric that few caught because his delivery was not as elegant as Vance's lies. And so he's not getting the praise he deserves, but that deserved praise. Now, Walz's start was good, but my favorite soundbite from the opening portion of the debate was when Governor Walz called out former President Donald Trump for saying it was a nice thing when Iran attacked and injured our troops in the Middle East. Trump even went so far as to call their injuries headaches. He minimized war injuries as headaches.
Look, Donald Trump was in office. We'll sometimes hear a revisionist history, but when Donald Trump was in office, it was Donald Trump who we had a coalition of nations that had boxed Iran's nuclear program in, the inability to advance it. Donald Trump pulled that program and put nothing else in its place. So Iran is closer to a nuclear weapon than they were before because of Donald Trump's fickle leadership. And when Iran shot down an American aircraft in international airspace, Donald Trump tweeted, because that's the standard diplomacy of Donald Trump. And when Iranian missiles did fall near U.S. troops and they received traumatic brain injuries, Donald Trump wrote it off as headaches. Look, our allies understand that Donald Trump is fickle. He will go to whoever has the most flattery or where it makes sense to him. Steady leadership like you witnessed today, like you witnessed in April. Both Iranian attacks were repelled. Our coalition is strong, and we need the steady leadership that Kamala Harris is providing.
I want to say this. J.D. Vance served in the United States Marine Corps for 4 years. He spent 6 months in Iraq in 2005. Tim Walz spent 24 years serving in the Army National Guard. He was a firing battery chief, operations sergeant, first sergeant, command sergeant major. He also served in the Minnesota National Guard's 1st Battalion, 125th Field Artillery, and was a part of Operation Enduring Freedom. I respect both of these men and their service to our country and to this world. And I want to say that, and it's disappointing that other people don't see it the same way. I am glad that Governor Walz called out Donald Trump when it was time to call out Donald Trump. We need more of that in this world. Now, there were 2 issues that emerged as the most important issues of the night. And the one I'm going to talk about in part 1 right here is abortion. It was reproductive freedom. And this is what J.D. Vance said.
No, Nora, certainly we won't. And I want to talk about this issue because I know a lot of Americans care about it, and I know a lot of Americans don't agree with everything that I've ever said on this topic. And, you know, I grew up in a working class family in a neighborhood where I knew a lot of young women who had unplanned pregnancies and decided to terminate those pregnancies because they feel like they didn't have any other options. And, you know, one of them is actually very dear to me. And I know she's watching tonight, and I love you. And she told me something a couple years ago that she felt like if she hadn't had that abortion, that it would have destroyed her life because she was in an abusive relationship. And I think that what I take from that as a Republican who proudly wants to protect innocent life in this country, who proudly wants to protect the vulnerable, is that my party, we've got to do so much better of a job at earning the American people's trust back on this issue where they frankly just don't trust us. And I think that's one of the things that Donald Trump and I are endeavoring to do. I want us as a Republican Party to be pro-family in the fullest sense of the word. I want us to support fertility treatments. I want us to make it easier for moms to afford to have babies. I want it to make it easier for young families to afford a home so they can afford a place to raise that family. And I think there's so much that we can do on the public policy front just to give women more options. Now, of course, Donald Trump has been very clear that on the abortion policy specifically, that we have a big country and it's diverse. And California has a different viewpoint on this than Georgia. Georgia has a different viewpoint from Arizona. And the proper way to handle this, as messy as democracy sometimes is to let voters make these decisions, let the individual states make their abortion policy. And I think that's what makes the most sense in a very big, a very diverse, and let's be honest, sometimes a very, very messy and divided country. I never supported a national ban. I did when I was running for Senate in 2022, talk about setting some minimum national standard. For example, we have a partial birth abortion ban in place in this country at the federal level. I don't think anybody's trying to get rid of that.
He said he was in favor tonight of the states deciding what's right. That's what he said tonight. But I, like most Americans, remember when he said,
be forced to carry a child to term after she has been the victim of incest or rape.
Look, my view on this has been very clear, and I think the question betrays a certain presumption that's wrong. It's not whether a woman should be forced to bring a child to term, it's whether a child should be allowed to live, even though the circumstances of that child's birth are somehow inconvenient or a problem to the system.
Senator Vance told a blatant lie when he said he never supported a national abortion ban, because he did. Not only did he support it, but he likened abortion to slavery. He said he wanted abortion to be illegal in every state. Now, in response, Governor Walz said,
Donald Trump put this all into motion. He brags about how great it was that he put the judges in and overturned Roe versus Wade, 52 years of personal autonomy. And then he tells us, oh, we send it to the states. It's a beautiful thing. Amanda Zaworski would disagree with you on it's a beautiful thing. A young bride in Texas waiting for their child at 18 weeks. She has a complication, a tear in the membrane. She needs to go in. The medical care at that point needs to be decided by the doctor. And that would have been an abortion. But in Texas, that would have put them in legal jeopardy. She went home, got sepsis, nearly dies, and now she may have difficulty having children. Or in Kentucky, Hadley Duvall, a 12-year-old child raped and impregnated by her stepfather. Those are horrific. Now, when God asked about that, Senator Vance said 2 wrongs don't make a right. There is no right in this. So in Minnesota, what we did was restore Roe versus Wade. We made sure that we put women in charge of their health care. But look, this is not where, if you don't know Amanda or a Hadley, you soon will. Their Project 2025 is going to have a registry of pregnancies. It's going to make it more difficult, if not impossible, to get contraception and limit access, if not eliminate access to infertility treatments. For so many of you out there listening, me included, infertility treatments are why I have a child. That's nobody else's business, but those things are being proposed. And the catch-all on this is, well, the states will decide what's right for Texas might not be right for Washington. That's not how this works. This is basic human right. We have seen maternal mortality skyrocket in Texas, outpacing many other countries in the world. This is about health care. In Minnesota, we are ranked first in health care for a reason. We trust women, we trust Thurman. She happened to be in Georgia, a restrictive state. Because of that, she had to travel a long distance to North Carolina to try and get her care. Amber Thurman died in that journey back and forth. The fact of the matter is, how can we as a nation say that your life and your rights, as basic as the right to control your own body, is determined on geography? There's a very real chance, had Amber Thurman lived in Minnesota, she would be alive today.
That was a powerful statement. The actual family of Amber Nicole Thurman, who lost her life due to the lack of care forced upon her by Brian Kemp's 2019 heartbeat bill, made law by Donald Trump's MAGA Supreme Court appointees, issued the following statement. Amber Thurman suffered a rare complication after taking abortion medication and sought a routine dilation and curettage, a DNC, procedure at Piedmont Henry Hospital. However, due to Georgia's stringent legislation criminalizing the procedure in most cases, her doctors delayed treatment for hours, waiting for Amber's condition to worsen to justify the procedure. Tragically, by the time they acted, it was too late to save her life. The family issued the following statement. Tonight, we commend Governor Tim Walz for telling Amber's story and for his unwavering commitment to defending women's reproductive rights. Amber's tragic death was a direct result of Georgia's archaic and dangerously restrictive abortion laws, which denied her the life-saving care she so desperately needed. We strongly condemn the Republican platform that seeks to further restrict women's access to necessary health care under the false guise of protection. We are grieving an unimaginable loss that no family should have to endure. We must continue to fight against laws that put women's lives at risk, and we are grateful to leaders like Governor Walz who advocate for common sense laws while exhibiting such compassion. The fight for justice for Amber is a fight for every woman's right to make decisions about her own body and access the medical care she needs. We will not stop until those dangerous laws are repealed and no more lives are lost. Until then, we must keep saying her name, Amber Thurman. Amber Thurman. Amber Thurman. My heart breaks. My prayers to her family, to her son. And with that being said, I look forward to you coming back for part 2 with more fact checks, where we're going to talk about immigration, and we're going to also talk about them guns and the numerous school shootings that we have seen escalate over the last 8 years of American life. I want you to be well. I want you to be blessed. And whatever you do, I want to see you keep pushing. I'll see you soon.